Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be looking at another Carneades.org original that I'm going to christen The Free Will Dilemma. Now this is going to be a little bit more of an advanced video, simply because I'm going to be drawing on a lot of different sources of information. 4, to be exact. I'm going to be taking from The Problem of Evil and Plantinga's response to The Problem of Evil, The Free Will Defense, as well as The Euthyphro Dilemma by Plato, and William Lane Craig's response to that dilemma, God is the Good. If you're unfamiliar with any of these arguments, you should check them out. I have videos on them all. But if you have a good sense of them, follow me and let's get started. What I want to show in this video is that there is an inconsistency between God is the Good and the free will defense. I'm not going to be positing an argument against either of these positions. I'm merely going to show that their conclusions are inconsistent, that you can't hold them at the same time. The conclusions that are drawn from God is the Good is that all that God does is good, and all that is good is God. They seem to follow. And from the free will defense, free will is good, and to be free you must be able to choose evil. With those in hand, let's take a look at the argument. It goes as follows. All that God does is good, from Craig. All that is good is God, also from Craig. God cannot do evil. This is just from premise 1, obversion. It's a logical term. If you don't know it, look it up. 4, free will is good, from Plantinga. 5, if you have free will, you have the ability to do both good and evil, also from Plantinga. 6, God has free will. This is from 2 and 4. It's just a syllogism. If all that is good is God and free will is good, God must have free will. God can do evil, from 5 and 6 modus ponens. If you have free will, you have the ability to do both good and evil. God has free will, therefore God can do evil. And finally, we end up with a contradiction. God both can and cannot do evil, from premises 3, 7, conjunction. Now, in order to get out of this argument, what you have to do is you have to deny one of the conclusions presented by either Craig or Plantinga. All that God does is the good, all that is good is God, free will is good, and if you have free will, you have the ability to do both good and evil. The other 4 premises just follow from Craig and Plantinga's conclusions, so there's no reason to deny them, because denying them, you would have to deny one of those first 4 premises anyway. Let's take a look at the possibility of denying one of those premises and still holding either Craig or Plantinga's argument. We'll start with Craig. All that God does is the good. If we were to deny that, it would look like it is not the case that all that God does is the good. Therefore, some things that God does are evil. If some things that God does are evil, God is not the good, and therefore God is not the good, concluding the opposite of the title of your argument probably means that your argument has fallen apart. All that is good is God. Let's see if we can deny that one. It is not the case that all that is good is God. Therefore, there is something that is good and not God. If there's something that is good and not God, God is not the good. God can't be all of the good if there's something that is both good and not God out there. Therefore, God is not the good. Once again, if we're concluding the opposite of the title of our argument, something's gone wrong. Let's try denying some of the conclusions from Plantinga. Free will is good, from Plantinga. If we deny that, it looks like it is not the case that free will is good. If it is not the case that free will is good, a world without evil is logically consistent. Let's think about this. Remember, Plantinga's argument says the only reason that there is evil in this world is because having free will is a greater good than a world in which there is no evil and everyone is completely determined and has no free will. However, if it's not the case that free will is good, if free will isn't that greater good, greater than all the evil in the world, then a world without evil would be logically consistent. There's no reason for God to choose a world with freedom and evil over a world that simply has no evil if free will is not the good. Therefore, from 1 and 2, a world without evil is logically consistent, and of course, if a world without evil is logically consistent, and an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent God exists, then there would be no evil. Evil exists, and therefore an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent God does not exist. Those last three just follow from the original problem of evil, having gotten rid of Plantinga's claim about Leibniz's lapse and all that jazz. So, what about the other premise from Plantinga? If you have free will, you have the ability to do both good and evil. If we deny that, it looks like it is not the case that if you have free will, you have the ability to do both good and evil. Follows from that, you can have free will but be unable to do evil. And if you can have free will and be unable to do evil, a world without evil is logically consistent. Remember, Plantinga's claim was that free will was such a good that it would balance out the evil in the world. And the reason that there was evil was because people having free will were free to choose evil. If having free will means you're not free to choose evil, then God could have given us a world that has free will and has no evil, because that free will could be defined as always choosing the good. And once again, the problem of evil will follow. If a world without evil is logically consistent and an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent God exists, there would be no evil. Evil exists. Therefore, an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent God does not exist. If the conclusion of your argument is that God does not exist, you're probably not a theist. So denying that would be fatal to Plantinga's argument. So we are left with a dilemma, the free will dilemma. It cannot be the case that both God is the good and free will is good. If God is not the good, the Euthyphro Dilemma is still a problem. And if free will is not good, then the free will defense fails, and the problem of evil is still a problem. The theist is only capable of solving one of these problems, and will be faced with the other, whichever they choose. This was a Carneades.org original, so please offer any thoughts, criticisms, questions below, so that I may improve these arguments. Watch this video and more at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.